because it was their way of trying to build community. Uh, because so many things with the whites, it was problematic. So this was their Black Wall Street type of mentality. They had made pacts to marry each other's families, and that's what they did.
Now, what she said. Basically, this is about the Louisiana Creoles, and if you don't know, the Creoles is basically just a demographic of people, mulattoes, basically. And the Creoles come in various shades of brown. And the Creoles, at one point in time, they had a very strong community and a sense of identity, and they still do. But they're a little bit more liberal now. But in the Louisiana, you'll notice this. But you'll notice that basically Phil Advisor show is going to speak about this, and she was trying to say why the Creoles, took pride in being Creole, which they're supposed to be, or light skin or whatever. And he's mostly going to talk about the light skin Creoles or the mulatto Creoles. And she was trying to say the reason why they did what they did. And basically, the reason why they did what they did is because they have a strong culture. And they understood that. And they also, the reason why they stuck together is because this society not going to tell is that they were looking for refuge during certain time periods. A lot of the mulattoes, especially the Creoles, because the stuff that was going on during that time. The boy will go back on, during the Civil Wars and things like that. But they're not going to tell that side. I'm going to let Phil Advise give his opinion on this.
In a lot of ways is correct, but some things that she did not say. Now, she's right. They did not marry people that look like me, my color, right?
And they're not supposed to. I mean, if that's that they choose, but it's nothing wrong with not finding dark skinned people attractive, or white people, because y'all two different groups of people. Y'all don't look the same at all. People who are in their right states of mind, they're going to prefer people that look like them. Men who are in their right states of mind are going to want children and sons that look like them. Your son has to look like you. You have to look at your son and see yourself. Your son is the representation of you when you leave the earth, and he's going to carry on your legacy. All right? Why are you going to a whole different... He's in his feelings because those group of people didn't want to intermix with him. Because, and basically, he went to Louisiana and he tried to dirty Mac to those Louisiana broads. Him being pro dark skin or pro whatever he tries to act like he is. He went to Louisiana and maybe he tried to get with one of those females, and they wouldn't mess with him because they had a strong culture. They took pride in who they were. They knew who they were. They weren't confused about their identity. So he probably will try to get with one, and he got barred up. She curved him, or those women would curve him. And they took pride in their identity. And that's why you notice, even in the black community, you have lighter skinned black people or the mulattoes. And you'll notice in the black community that light skinned people are not allowed to have their own thing going on. They're not allowed to take pride in who they are. They're not allowed to look in the mirror and talk to one another, communicate with one another, because darker people don't like that. They don't like that in the black community, because they fear that light-skinned people are going to take pride in themselves and they're going to branch out and do their own thing. And also the whole fetish stuff as well, which we're going to get into. But that's their biggest fear of light-skinned Negroes, or it having been a mulatto class. That's why they had to keep trying to destroy them and shame them out of communicating with one another. But I'm gonna keep going. Let's go. See what we're gonna say.
Because a lot of them wanted to preserve that color, like my grandmother said.
That too, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve your color. If you're a light-skinned person, it's perfectly fine with taking pride in your complexion. If you're a light-skinned male, female, it's okay to only want to date people that look like you. Don't let these people trick you into not doing that. All groups of people do that. I met plenty of dark-skinned people who said they would not get with a white person because they want to preserve their DNA. And vice versa. I met white men who said that. All right. I met Mexicans who say that all the time, but they never get any backlash. Some of them might. But, so it's nothing wrong with choosing your kind first. That's natural. That's how it's supposed to be, according to the Bible. But I find it odd when light-skinned Negroes do that, It's colorism. You know why they say it's colorism? Not they know it's BS, but they have a fear of us rising up as a class. That's what it's all about, right?
I'm more inclined to believe my grandma because my grandma has never steered me wrong. She said they want to preserve their color. So she told me, somebody like you, no, no, no.
And they won't tell the other fact, the real history is that they were looking for refuge. Like a lot of the mulattoes now who are tired of getting bossed around and getting tortured and shit, they're looking for refuge. So they understood they had to stick together. That's why a lot of throughout history, the mulattoes work together. They don't work together now. Hell no. The light skinned people, they just worship darker people or whatever group they're trying to fit into. But they used to work because they were all being oppressed. And they would look for places of refuge. And they know they understand for them to survive, they had to stick together. And they wouldn't give with other groups because they know these other groups didn't have their best interests at heart. They would just use them for their talent or their looks or trying to get something out of them, and then they'll backstab them like they do now.
Matter of fact, this my grandma said, you got to be careful with them little Creole women. And I say, why you say that? He said, because in order to preserve that color, if they could not, like she said, get with other Creoles, they would get with a third and fourth cousin.
See, and this is the lies that black people, dark-skinned Negroes would spread about light-skinned people who don't want to date them. And I talked about the light-skinned fetish before that they have. They do this to light-skinned blacks as well, not just the Creoles. If you don't want to date them or to be with them, they'll spread lies like this. First off, that doctrine of incest don't even come from the mulattoes. They come from black people, dark-skinned black people who are in Africa, known as Canaanites and Egyptians. All right, that's pagan practices. That's in their DNA. All right, Mr. African diaspora, since you're so African, that comes from the Egyptians. You know, having sex with each other, incest children, and having sex with animals. They come from their practices. That's not really in our DNA. The mulattoes and the light skinned, that's not in our DNA to do that. It's not in our spirit to do that. You know, that's why you see a lot of that lust demon is on a lot of black people. Not all, but a lot of black people have that lust demon because a lot of the black Americans have Canaanite DNA. All right. Believe it or not, even a lot of the Israelites had Canaanite DNA or what you call Phoenician DNA because they end up intermixing with them. But that comes from them. But they'll spread that lie, even with light-skinned black people, they'll say, or the mulatto Americans, FBAs, whatever you want to call them, they say whenever a light-skinned person tries to get with each other, they'll basically cock block them. And they'll say, y'all look like brothers and sisters. Not because it's actually true. It's just they have a fear of y'all coming together and y'all building self-esteem because once you go through y'all history, y'all will realize y'all don't need these other groups of people, and that's what they fear. See, they got y'all brainwashed to believe that y'all need black people, but y'all don't. They need y'all. If you look at all the best inventors in black America, the best inventors are light-skinned men and mulatto men. All right, they actually are oppressive. Y'all, they actually owe light-skinned people reparations, especially the men specifically. All right? But let me keep going. I ain't gonna go too much on the tangent.
Just so they can preserve their color. They had things like the Blue Vein Society.
Which need to come back. Y'all need to bring, it's not wrong with light-skinned people wanting their own privacy, wanting their own room, having meetings with each other. Like I said, they fear that even with the men. Like I go out with some of my light-skinned homies, and we dressed up, we kiki and ha-ha and cracking jokes on each other. And that'll make other groups of men frustrated because they know the real history about the mulatto man in America. And they know who the real alpha male of the earth is, even according to Bible scripture. And that makes black males mad and white males. Especially with black people, they'll say too much light skin is hanging out with each other. Too much this is that. Too much light skin on one screen because, like I said, they fear us becoming a ruling class. Us getting our real history because we have what you call identity issues because we had our identity stolen. They blackwash it or they whitewash it. And yeah, that's what they do. And they fear us taking pride in who we are. That's why you notice a lot of the black people who are lighter or mulattoes or what you call light-skinned FBAs, they can't take pride in themselves. There's a reason why they don't call out light-skinned self-hate because dark-skinned people want you to hate yourself. So you can see, they want you to hate yourself. That's the point. All right?
Some of them even owned slaves as well.
Because slavery was, that's not, some of them probably did, but the original slave owners were dark skinned black men. They're not going to tell y'all that. They're going to make a lie and say, because if they, the original, look up a guy by the name of Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson was a dark skinned black man who owned slaves, black slaves specifically. A lot of the Caucasians weren't even slave owners. The Caucasians couldn't even afford slaves. A lot of the Caucasians are the descendants of white trash who came from Europe, who got kicked out. All right. But they're not going to tell y'all that because slavery wasn't just based off skin color. It was based off of debt that you owed and you had to work off. And how you work, if you couldn't afford to pay it off, you would become a slave as well. It wasn't just based off skin tone and race and nationality or whatever. Now, eventually, over time, it became more about that in the late 1800s and the mid late 1800s, because that's the only time they would let you know about it, because they wanted you to make it seem like only people of color were slaves, but white people, black people own white slaves. All right, they tell history in reverse a lot of times, and this society is based off narrative. It's not based off real history. Like, look up Anthony Johnson and all them the first black male, the slave owners, the original slave owners. They were dark skinned black men. All right, but they had to concoct this narrative to make black people victims, and the reason why they do that is for many reasons. But just look that stuff up. It'll show.
Oh yes. And then a lot of them thought that they was, they can go with the white folks. A lot of them could pass. And then when the white folks find out what they got going on, they say, hey, baby, you don't get your behind from up here with us. Get yourself right back there with them black folk.
Like, why? Notice he said get back with them white folks. He didn't say go back with the mulattoes or the Creoles, because that's what he wants. He wants to be obsessed with them. And why are you even worried about mulatto people? Y'all a totally different group of people. The Creoles especially, like, that ain't got nothing to do with y'all. All right? And even back then, they had a different category for white passing people. They'd call them octoroons or some shit. Or quadroons. They wouldn't even, like, and why are you even worried about them people for? Like, you should be minding your black business, your dark-skinned business.
You don't belong up here. Because they will treat a lot better in society than someone that look like me.
Which is complete bullshit. It's a complete false narrative that darker people have been pushing for a very long time, and all these simple-minded mulattoes have fallen for it. Especially you mulatto men have fallen for it. All right? You are the one who's being oppressed. There's a reason why you're so damn confused about your identity. They're keeping it from you. There's a reason why all groups of men have access to their history to some degree, but you don't. There's a reason why you don't have a community, but all other groups of people on planet Earth does. Or at least in this society does. There's a reason why everybody else has access to their women to some degree, but you don't. There's a reason why it's like that. All right? This BS they're pushing.
You understand what I'm saying? So my grandmother said, yeah, you got to be real careful. She said, don't let them green eyes they got and that light skin or that gray eyes, They said, don't let none of that fool you. He said, because, boy, he said, you don't know what you're dealing with sometimes. And say with them. That's what my grandmother was saying. But we have to understand the quote-unquote Creoles was just an offshoot of the legacy of slavery.
No, it's not. The mulattoes have been on the earth for thousands of years. All right, it's another bullshit narrative they didn't concoct it. There's mixed people in the Bible. There's mulattoes in the Bible. Jesus Christ, or Yahushua, came from mixed people. His bloodline wasn't even... Like, it's all type of stuff they had from mulatto Americans. Like, there's a reason why we're going through what we're going through for a reason. And it's going to have a beautiful outcome at the end. But, there's all type of shit they hiding from y'all, dog. Y'all don't even know to have. Like...
Because you got to understand, there was no such thing as a Creole coming from the continent of Africa.
We didn't come from no damn Africa. And a lot of the Africans, we didn't come from Africa. Most of the people of color here in America came from Europe. That's why they have European last names. They lied and said that the reason we have our last names is because the white man was a slave owner. That's bullshit. People of color ruled Europe. They ruled Europe for thousands of years. All right, we came from Europe. That's why we have European last names. It's actually the other way. A lot of the white people have our last names. Like when we see white people with Williams and Smith, and stuff like that. I had a friend in school. One of his names was Alex Smith. That's a person of color's last name. Smith, that's a European last name. And Scottish last names and Welsh last names, those belong to people of color. All right, because the original Europeans, the original Scots, the original whatever, is because those people were people of color. Like if you look at the origins of fried chicken, it comes from Scotland. Why? Because people of color ruled Scotland. All right.
That is the white man's print on causing genetic confusion. That's just.
All right, so it's a genetic confusion that you went and got with a Mexican woman and created more mixed kids. No, it's genetic confusion because you couldn't bag what you wanted to bag. And on top of that, the reason why they push that doctrine is because people get off on trying to emasculate the light-skinned Negro male. They get off on trying to sun him, and they get off on trying to humble him. And there's a lot of checks and balances in this world and this society to keep him humble. All right?
With what it really is. Now, I'm not saying the Creoles of today, no, nothing like that, because they'll tell you they black in a minute. You can hear her voice. If you wasn't sitting up there looking at her, you would think, oh, okay, well, that's another black girl.
You listen too much gangster rap. And that even had to do with the mulatto man. Damn. They ain't gonna tell y'all that stuff though. You know, gangster rap is just nothing but allegedly a government psyop anyway. But that's another topic for another day. But but yeah, a lot of them over infatuated with that, and you know they getting weak now. So it is what it is.
Right? But she light skinned, whatever, she'll throw you off. But if you go to Louisiana, you see plenty of that. Plenty of that. If you're that kind of brother that's into them kind of women, and some of the women are into that kind of men. So you know how that goes. But anyway, that's part of the history, and you can get more deeper into the history of the Creoles and all of that. But I just want y'all to kind of hear that, because some of that she's saying is definitely 100% correct. But some of them, like I said, didn't like the people that look like me. I'm gonna say more.
They ain't supposed to like you. You ain't they damn kind. They ain't they damn kind. You don't like them either. You might like they women, but you don't like they men. You see that with black males all the time. They like women. They don't even like them for real. They just using them as pawns and crash dummies. But they ain't supposed to like you. Not they kind. You might be related. You may be brothers, but y'all not the same. Let's keep it a being.
So the people that's more closer to the African origin. There you go.
And this is bullshit too. This whole African origin. If you go to Africa, Christopher Columbus even said before America was even discovered. All right, when he went to America, or not just leave America out, but same thing with him. When he went to Africa, he seen black and tawny people, meaning light and dark people. This is before America was even established. This is before slavery, or quote unquote slavery. He seen blacks and tawnies, meaning he seen people of color. Africa was not all dark skinned. It never has been. Like I said, look up the Science Tribesmen. You look them up, they all light skinned. They claim that's the most ancient group of people on the planet Earth, which they're not, but they're close. The most ancient group of people is the people of color here in America, and all people come from the children of Israel, like the scriptures say. All nations. But they come from Jacob. But yeah. And also, they got a tribe back in the day. They described. I was reading a book. I forgot what book it was. They described the. I believe the Ashanti tribe. They said the vast majority of them were dark, but they had what you call ruddy. Like the Bible says, ruddy. Ruddy just means brown, or brownish red. And that tribe of they had a tribe of people, who were described as ruddy, and that was thousands of years ago. And those people were light skinned. There's Ashanti, that specific people, there was of the Ashanti tribe. And Africa is not, like I said, it's not a phenotype, it's a landmass, and they have different phenotypes in Africa. If you go to Ethiopia, the Ethiopians look different. And they look different from the Nigerians. If you go to Niger, and you go to another tribe or nation, they look different from each other. It's not a set phenotype. So I don't know where he getting that his phenotype is a standard over Africa. That's some America bullshit that they done made up.
But let me know what y'all think about what this sister talking about here. You know, like I said,
That's why you notice a lot of these silly ass woke Negroes when they go to Africa, they get their whole damn, especially these black bras. They go to when they super hotepi. They go to Africa and get a wake up call because that fake woke stuff don't work over there. They don't go by skin tone. They go by tribe and nation. Because that's what race is. It's your tribe that you belong to. They don't go by what you go by.
if you say she a sister in the community, and most Creole people say they black people, so you know, hey, I rock with you. You know,
And no Creoles are dumb as hell. They fucking smart. They'll get away from black people or that black label because all they're doing is deculturalizing themselves and indoctrinating and oppressing their own group. They're going to see down the line.
as long as you're not on that, I'm not one of y'all deal.
And you should be because they butt out of their mouth for trying to say they one of them. But that's a new trend now. Like I said, people follow trends, especially women. They follow these damn trends and shit. You got to watch out for that. But I'm out.